Well, hello and a very warm welcome to Business Today TV. I am Chetan. Well, Maruti Suzuki has reported its set of numbers for the month of November 2022. A total sale of about 1.6 lakh unit, registering nearly about 14% growth in the total sales. And I'm joined by the senior ED for Maruti Suzuki, Mr. Shashank Shrivastava. Shashank-san, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Set of numbers reported by the company: domestic passenger vehicle sales up 20%, total wholesale numbers up 14%. So, what is an indicator about?
So I think the domestic demand continues to be strong on the demand parameters, whether it is inquiries or booking, seems to be stabilized. The number for the industry for the month of November, 3,23,000 almost. When you compare with last year's 2.46, the growth of almost 32%. And it's the highest ever November wholesale, for the industry as far as passenger vehicle is concerned. The other interesting, on the wholesale front, this number indicates is the sixth straight month when the industry has crossed the 300,000 mark. And this is also for the first time. So, and if you look at calendar year numbers, the previous highest was 2018. Jan to December was about 33.8 lakhs. And that figure has already been crossed in November itself, the industry crossing 35 lakh mark. So it is expected calendar year as well as financial year from here on, we should get to that figure of 3.8 million, that is 38 lakhs or thereabouts.
Well, that's a strong signs of recovery. I'm going to ask you about the calendar year closing because we're in the last month of the calendar year. Any interesting trend you'd like to talk about? You spoke about the sales, of course, but any interesting trend you'd like to speak on?
Yeah, so one, of course, is the change in the percentage of contribution of SUVs. It's now almost 43%. That's a further increase. While the smaller cars are around the similar numbers. Last year 36%, now 35.5%. Almost a similar level. We also saw the semiconductor situation not getting fully normal, whereas the expectation was that it would get fully normal. So we are still about 95% okay. So there's been some improvement, still not normal. Third, we have seen the consistent high pending bookings in the industry, which is something which we haven't seen earlier for such a prolonged period of time. And of course, we do see a continued shift of consumers towards personal mobility, away from public transport. And in this year, though, we did see a slight bounce back as far as shared mobility is concerned, something which was going down in the previous 2 years of the COVID. So quite a few trends. We saw replacement buying, for example, increasing. It's now around 24% against 16% that we saw last year. So many interesting trends we saw. And of course, the strong hybrids advent, which has been really successful with the Grand Vitara. That I would say is also a big trend for the industry.
So it's been about 1 month and a half. We can, I think, comment on it. You've seen the mini cars, the compact cars, the mid-size sedans, and in comparison to the Grand Vitara now, which is a full-fledged SUV, how are the sales looking like, and how is the comparison been? Is the mini car compact segment, compact mid-size sedan, still the hot seller for Maruti, or the SUV segment, like specifically the Grand Vitara, is also picking up?
Yeah, so I think in this year, we have seen an uptick in both segments. And both in the hatch segment, where we have a market share of 70% plus, we have seen good growth this year. But if you look at it in the perspective of a longer period, let's say 3-year period, then the volumes in the small cars have dropped, largely because of the affordability factor going down because of increased prices and not so high increase in the income levels of this category. But as I've been mentioning earlier also, one of the central strategy that we are following as far as product is concerned is to get an extra market share in the SUV space, because that's now 43% of the market. And our target is to get to 50% of the market share. And in the non-SUV segment, our market share is 65% plus, in fact, increased this year. But in the SUV share, we have therefore a lot of catching up to do. And that's what we try to do with the new Brezza and also the Grand Vitara. So our market share in the SUV space has been going up in the last few months, ever since we introduced the Grand Vitara. But still, I would say a long way to go, because we have just 2 models out of 46 models in the industry in the SUV space. And that's the reason why we should be introducing more SUVs in the very near future.
Right. Coming on to the price hike part now. In the December, I think would be a smoother month, but in January, there's a tendency to increase prices by companies. So, is there something on the cards?
So obviously, yeah, we keep track of the cost structure, and we are doing that. We haven't really decided at the moment. But as far as price hike is concerned, I must say that the commodity prices, even though they have sort of softened a little bit in the last few months, they still remain stubbornly high when compared with the previous, 2 years back prices. And most OEMs, including Maruti Suzuki, have not taken the price hike, which commensurate with this increased cost. So that is one factor which has to be taken care of. And the second is there is inflationary pressures anyway in the system across all costs associated with OEMs. And we are looking into it. As always, we continuously monitor it. While we have not made any decision, we should be making a decision shortly. And that is when we do that, we will definitely let you know.
Right. So, little price hike on the cards again for consumers. So, I would like to take a comment on Mr. Kirloskar's sad demise, and we played a very crucial role, especially with the Suzuki Toyota partnership as well, and especially bringing Toyota to India, and he was the sole face for it. So, I would like to take your reaction. And do you think is there any kind of issue that the tie-up would eventually, or some pressure that the tie-up would feel?
As far as Mr. Kirloskar is concerned, of course, first of all, I must express deep regret and sadness at his passing away at such a young age. I had interacted with him a few times, and it came out as a very down-to-earth person, very polite, very humble, despite his background as an industrialist of long standing. As far as the effect on the relationship is concerned, I don't think I am in a position to reply that. I frankly think that will not be the case. But obviously, it's a big loss to the industry as a whole, and we'll surely miss him both as a great human being and also as a person who spoke for the industry.
Right. Last question, sir. So finally, you just mentioned about the new SUV coming up, and would it be in January, February, and would it be the most expensive vehicle Maruti has ever manufactured?
As regards the future product introduction, I may not be in a position to divulge more details, except to say that we will try to strengthen our SUV portfolio, and we'll like to do that in the very near future.
Right, sir. And lastly, with the interest rates and all being a little bit troublesome for the consumers, do you think EMIs are still getting expensive, and is that also affecting buying pattern for consumers?
Clearly, that is one of the red flags and headwinds that we are monitoring very closely. The stubborn inflation leading to the higher repo rates, which have now resulted in the increased retail rates for auto loans and as well as inventory funding. Remember, in our industry, 80% of the retail happens through the financing route, and almost 100% of the inventory is through inventory funding. So increased rates will be a matter which we will closely be monitoring, because that's clearly one of the big movers of the overall demand pattern.
Shashank, as always, thank you so much for joining us, and wish you all the best for the car coming up.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.